Hi, my name's Rachel and welcome to How to Connect to Liber. Liber is an ancient Roman god of agriculture and he was considered a protector of plebeian rights. And so he was associated with the common people, the working or agricultural classes known as the plebs, that is, the people that aren't the aristocracy. And his name actually translates to something meaning belonging to the people. And so he is associated with the ideas and the themes of freedom and liberation. He is also a god of vitality, of virality, of fertility, and particularly governed with his mother and his sister, the growth of crops. And he can also help you to connect to these ideas that I've mentioned already, freedom and growth. So he can help you to understand what freedom means, to be an advocate for freedom and to embrace that within yourself and to advocate that and cultivate that in the world around you. He's also going to help you with healthy and strong growth. What does it mean to be vital, to be virile, to growing in a healthy and beautiful way that is strong and really truly connected to yourself and your dreams and your wishes. And so here are my top 3 tips for connecting to Liber. My first tip is actually to connect to the archetype of youth. So Liber was particularly connected to the young people, particularly to young boys. He was very much a god of men, of the masculine, who particularly connected to him because he governed a rite of passage that was important to Roman men. So when they were coming of age, he was a god that would have been called on, and his festal, Liberalia, was actually a time when young Roman men would become men. So they would stop being a boy, they would remove their bulla, which was a protective amulet that was worn by young people. They would remove that and they would don for the first time the toga symbolizing their rights as a Roman citizen and their freedom. So he was a god of this threshold moment, which would normally happen for Roman boys around the age of 14. And so in governing that threshold, he is there as young men kind of move from youth into adulthood, and so he can help us, some support us with the ideas of self-authority and self-responsibility. He was known as very much a dignified and responsible god. And so he can help us to kind of take that youthfulness, enthusiasm, that courage and liveliness and go-getting of youth and to translate that into adulthood. So how can we embody the youth within that is enthusiastic, who is courageous and is eager to learn and to stand up for things? How can we kind of bridge the gap, into adulthood of being responsible, having discipline? How can we bring those two things together to cultivate freedom and to really advocate for freedom in the world? Firstly, starting with our own understanding of freedom. So what does it mean for us? How can we liberate ourselves from the ways that we have been tied down, suppressing our truth, keeping ourselves small, or, in the judgments and the conditions rather than in our own truth? And then also, how can we take action on behalf of freedom in the world? So what can we do for the freedom of all people, of the liberation of all people, so that we are being an advocate for human rights? He will help you to consider and to take action for those things. So to take that courage, take that enthusiasm, and really be burning that torch bright for all those that need it and need you to take action for them. And he will give you ideas on how to do that, the why, the how, the when, and the where. And the toga really symbolizes this aspect of him. So that might be a symbol that you want to explore or use in your work with him if you're exploring this aspect. My second tip is to actually connect to him as part of his triad. So he was a triad, the Aventine triad, made of himself, so Liber, and then also his sister, or sometimes considered consort, Libera, and also his mother, Ceres. So these were known as the Aventine or agricultural triad, and their temple on Aventine Hill in Rome was really the center of the agricultural kind of religious calendar, festivities, where the grain was stored, where the grain was given out, free grain was given out to the poor people. Go and read more about that in my book. I explore more about this triad. But I invite you to connect to them for ideas of cultivation, of growth. All three of them govern the growth of crops in particular, but metaphorically, we can kind of translate that over to our own virality, fertility, and growth of ideas, projects of self, of children, of, dreams, seeds, whatever you want to apply that over to, and connect to them as a triad to really amplify that. And they can teach you how to embody this idea of growth in different ways. So Liber is very much this aspect of the youth, the young boy, the one that's bringing that enthusiasm, that energy, and also that belief in what is right and justice, and then taking that into responsibility. That's his aspect. And I have created videos about all three, so you can explore Ceres and Libera as well, both in videos, which I'll pop the links down below for them, but also in my book, Pantheon the Romans. Like I said, all three are explored there. You may want to connect 2 or 3 during their sacred time, which is really March and April. So Liber and Libera have their festival in March, and Ceres has her festival dates. The main one is in April. So this period where the crops and the plants are beginning to grow and when they needed to be protected, that's when these deities were particularly needed. And it's a really good time to connect to them in this trinity at this time. My third tip is to connect to some of his symbols, and I'm also going to share with you some offerings as well. So one of his main symbols is ivy. So a really nice idea is to create like an ivy crown. And ivy, is resilient. It grows really fast and really, really well. You'll know if you ever get ivy in the garden. And so it's a symbol of this youthfulness, this exuberance of youth. And so if you're particularly wanting to work with this idea of freedom, liberation, and youth, then ivy is going to be a really good plant to have as your ally, whether that be as an essence or connecting to the plant itself, like I said, making an ivy staff or ivy crown. You may also want to connect to millet. All three of the Aventine triad, Ceres, Liber, Libera, they all are particularly connected to one particular crop, although they're all crops growth in general, but he is particularly connected to millet. So millet was really important to the ancient Romans. Again, it's really resistant to drought, resilient, and it was considered kind of the poor man, the common man's food. It was used as animal fodder as well, but it was resilient, and that was why it was so celebrated. If everything else went to pot, then this millet was one of those things that was there for them. So millet is a really good offering. It's quite readily available as well, so you can have that on your altar. You can give that as an offering. You may even want to try and grow that as like a little patch in your garden, perhaps, to kind of cultivate that. You're planting it, and then as it grows, you're thinking of an intention that's going to grow with that. We also have Liber, which is the honey cakes that were particularly given his offering. So especially during his festival, if you're going to give an offering to him, then the Liber cakes, which are honey cakes, were the thing that particularly was given to him. So the honey cheese, flour and eggs. You know, they're quite easy and simple to make. I will post a video on how to make them. I've got videos on how to make lots of different offering cakes the ancient Roman used. So you can make that to particularly connect to him, to give his offering, to share, to break bread during his sacred time, or if you're doing a ritual ceremony or meditation. This bread, this honey cake was used both in the domestic and public rites and rituals of him. One less symbol you might want to use is also the crescent moon that was on the top of his staff. Again, this is just symbolizing youth and new beginnings. So if you're wanting to cultivate and grow something, connect to a new beginning and have him there supporting you as you grow into that new beginning or cross a threshold. That might be a symbol you may want to use on your altar, your ritual, or in ceremony. You may want to meditate with any of these symbols, draw them, have them with you, whether in your decoration of self or decoration of your sacred space. So those are my top 3 tips, and I hope they support you in connecting to Liber. Like I say, if you want to know kind of more about him, then do check out my book, Pantheon of the Romans. I have a lot more about him in there. I'll post a link down below, and the link down below also for the videos of him and his mother and sister. You can also ask any questions that you're more than welcome to in the comments down below. If you don't want to ask in public, please do just connect to me on social media, Wolf Woman Rising. I'm happy to elaborate on anything more or offer you any support if I can do so. So thank you for watching, and many blessings for your continued journey with